Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 11th, 2019. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Boyle, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, I will. Good evening. Commissioner Metcalf.
Here.
Commissioner Bundy.
Here.
Commissioner Chase.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
And Commissioner Bendel.
Here.
Thank you. So at this time in every meeting, we open it up to public comment for something that is not on tonight's agenda, so that if you want to make a statement to the commission or to the staff, please step up and have your 3 minutes. But it's not on the agenda. So with that said, I don't see anybody jumping up. We'll go right to our new hearing, which is the Village at Corte Madera design review and precise plan amendment for renovations to the center court and the east and south parking lots of the Village of Corte Madera. So somewhat self-explanatory, but I'll let Mr. Boyle make the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, this is an application to modify the existing center court and to re-landscape the east and south parking lots of the village. And as mentioned before, this is a design review application as well as a revision to the precise plan. Project location is, of course, the village, and dead center of the village shopping center is the center court. Not the existing center court, but what the center court used to look like not too long ago when the tower was still there. And there's the tower to the left. Sorry, the right. Trellises are also gone, but the rest of the center court is pretty much like that today. Proposal is to significantly improve the look, the feel, and the landscaping of center court. This is an illustrative site plan of what's proposed. Again, the fountain, which exists today and will remain, is kind of a reference point. Tower used to be right here. This is the new East Court, which, as I mentioned in the staff report, was reviewed and approved administratively. And to the east of East Court is where the Restoration Hardware Gallery is currently under construction. Applicant will go into much more detail, I'm sure, with some of the plantings and the materials used in the project. And they include a variety of plantings, both small and low plantings, as well as quite large specimen trees that they're bringing in to immediately create a sense of shade and a natural environment. Be new types of pavings in many of the different sections as well. Again, the fountain itself will still stay the same, and as I hear, it will be maybe slightly tuned up where it's been worn out or damaged in small areas. Just some before and after images. This is looking to the to the south, and gives you an idea of what it looks like today in the upper left, and then the proposal in the bottom right. Again, with the as well as plantings, large and small, also furniture for seating, a fire pit, and other amenities for the public. Again, another before and after image looking at the Williams-Sonoma building. That one's to the north, I believe, yes. Some perspective views of how it will look, again, giving different angles, showing the various types of pavings and kind of the different type of areas where one can pass through the court in a direct way, but also many places to kind of pull off and sit and enjoy the scenery. The second part of the project is the east and south parking lot landscaping. Basically these 4 areas here, A being Macy's and around Macy's and A and B both, and then C and D, or the northern part of the center. This is to remove many of the old and tired and not so attractive looking trees that have been there for quite some time. Many of them are diseased, some of them are invasive species, and some of them are just in poor health overall. So a large percentage of the trees will be removed and replaced, and not in an exact 1-to-1 ratio, but in much more of a more planned and thoughtful layout of the various species to provide a rich and complete canopy cover. This is a planting palette that's in your packet, just showing what type of materials are proposed. Want to back up, there's no proposed changes to the hardscape, no proposed changes to parking lot configuration or curbs or anything like that. It's just removing dead and poor vegetation, putting in new soil where needed, fixing irrigation if that's broken, and then replanting. Ask the applicant to provide some images of what it looks like today, what it will look like, projected to look like at the time of planting, and then 5 years into the future. So give you an idea of how this will look as things grow. Some of the images, some of the trees that are healthy and that are in good shape, that are to remain, are shown here. And then several of the trees that aren't doing so well and will be replaced, and hopefully will thrive much more and provide a much thicker and denser green canopy. Some more of the trees to be removed. So with all that, staff has reviewed the application for both the findings that are required for design review, findings that are required for a precise plan amendment. Didn't receive any comments from the public regarding this application or from tenants, either for or against. As you saw before you, there are materials boards or materials, various pavings and wood and materials that are going to be used for the center court. And I mentioned all the lighting in the center court will be dark sky compliant, as is shown on the plans. And I have attached a resolution, and staff is recommending that you approve that resolution because we are able to make all of the required findings. And I'm welcome to answer any questions that you have, and I believe 2 members of the applicant's team have PowerPoint presentations.
Okay, great. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions for Mr. Boyle?
No.
Margaret?
So just to be clear, it doesn't include the cement pathway around the outside of where the marsh is. Nothing is going to be done to the cement pathway.
The cement pathway.
Around the outside of it. That's not included.
Correct.
Okay.
Nothing to the east of Redwood Highway, if that's what you're thinking.
Or, well, I think she's asking about...
Nothing to the east of the street.
No, nothing. It's not going
Okay.
over there. And secondly, even in this area, they're not proposing any hardscape changes.
Right. This is Redwood Highway here. This is the new lot.
Okay.
Marsh area, bottom of the screen. Yeah, nothing proposed there.
Phil, I believe Public Works is looking at redoing that pathway as a pedestrian bike path to get the disruption of the pavement out. Yeah. So I think that's under the Public Works.
Yeah.
It's not developed property. Okay. All right, with that said, then who's going to start the presentation for Mace Rich or for the project?
Say some words real quick.
Sure.
Good evening. This one? Good evening, commissioners. My name is John Steckley. I am a senior manager in our development group at Macerich. I have been in front of many of you before when we came to you requesting our approvals for restoration hardware. I just want to take this opportunity to briefly tell you all that your team has been wonderful to work with. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to hopefully obtain an approval to continue to improve the village. Over the past few months, as you've seen, there's been a lot of work going on. This has really been a transformation of the property in our eyes. You can see what's taken place at the north lot, affectionately known to us formerly as the gravel lot, which I'm glad it shed that title. But we're really hoping that this is going to put a cherry on top of what we think has been a great few months of improvements going on at the center. Each scope of work is bringing to bear all of the resources that we have as a company. We've involved all of our stakeholders, our leasing team, our property management teams, and our design teams to come up with some concepts here that really develop continuity throughout the entire project, which we think is going to make it a better experience for our customers and a better experience for the community. So again, I want to thank you all for hearing us tonight and hearing our application. And then we have two members from our design team here to speak a little bit more discreetly about the aspects of the project that you all have under consideration in front of you. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Actually, that's right there. Answer. Forget which one goes to slideshow.
You. Full screen mode.
So your right button should go forward, backwards.
Perfect.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Phil. Thank you, commissioners. I'm Chad Kowaleski. I'm a principal landscape architect with Land Design, leading the work on the center court renovation as well as the East Plaza renovation that Phil mentioned earlier. Phil actually presented the exact same thing I was going to present today, but I'll dive a little bit deeper. I brought the full samples for you guys so you could really get a sense of what we're doing out there. But the context, as Phil mentioned, center of the project, the tower is no longer there, and I would say currently it's a very hot, open, more of a pass-through space that isn't being utilized. And I would assume on a 103-degree day like today, there was probably 0 people stopping and lingering and hanging out exactly like we want them to do. So really we took a vision of Macerich and the overall design team and translated that to what the center court, we believe, has always wanted to be. And that's a place that has great connectivity to the new RH on the east, that's improved that connection from with the grade change from that area. We've also made the connections to north and south a bit smoother. Speaking of materials, we're utilizing a lot of the same materials that are used throughout the center. We're reusing the bluestone that many of the nodes currently are throughout the mall. We're reusing the concrete pavers wherever they aren't broke, so that we can really add to that continuity that John mentioned. And with that increased circulation, we've set ourselves up to create some great spots that people can stop, hang out, and even on a 100-degree day, they can sit under these great specimen trees surrounded by a significantly increased amount of landscape, and really taking the sites, people watch, spend considerably more time in the center court than they have previously. And our goal is to really make an environment that's inviting, that people do want to take that time and spend the time. The water feature, it's a beautiful focal point already, and I think with this configuration of the center court, it's only increasing that as a focal point. This is a great shot that I don't think Phil had quite zoomed in, and it really shows just how natural a lot of these connections and pathways feel. And they give you a sense of really aiding in that circulation, but also gives you those little moments that the Macerich team and operations can set up for specific events. So we're really setting the stage for many different things to happen in the center court and for it to be truly the heart of the project. Many of the same before and afters that Phil showed, just a little larger scale so you can get a sense. You can see how the pavers that you see in front of you, the concrete unit pavers, we're utilizing the same pattern from the north and south. So it is just going to be a continuous feel. And yeah, this is going to be a renovation that's going to take some time, but it's, if someone new were to come, they'll hopefully feel as though this is how it's always been, especially with the great trees that we're bringing in and the landscape. You can also see the bluestone that kind of defines a lot of these edges and the new nodes that we're creating with the under the shade of the near the fire pit and around the fountain, enhancing those areas. Another shot seeing the it is a slightly elevated deck area that we see, you know, evening concerts, you know, a multitude of things can happen, and the fact that it is raised one step makes it feel a little bit more special. I mean, they just got engaged, this couple. So. Absolutely. She wouldn't have today, but after the renovation, she. So this plan shows kind of the existing conditions, and you know, there's still, and it shows the previous footprint of the tower, and I mean, it's night and day how the circulation just seems to flow and work that much better. So we're excited about how the shoppers and members of the community are going to experience this. And as I already mentioned, a significantly increased amount of planting. I mean, at least triple, I would say, of what's currently out there, and the specimen trees. And then the RHAA team is going to talk, but we've really taken the east parking lot plant palette that they've spent considerable amount of time developing and vetting and revising, and we've taken that palette and consolidated it a bit, but utilizing the same plant material that's going to be proposed in the east and south parking lots, and that's also going around the RH and utilizing that in the East Plaza and Center Court. So when this is all said and done, it's all going to be bay friendly, it's all going to be drought tolerant, it's all going to be, you know, extremely successful and all very cohesive. So, and just to finish, the materials are pretty straightforward. I think with the great trees and increased landscaping, I think the materials kind of take a backdrop, and since many of them are being reused, you know, we've kept the palette pretty subdued. Thank you very much.
All right, before you leave, does anybody have any questions for this gentleman at this time?
No.
All right. Thank you. So who's next to make a statement? She's wielding a drive in her hand, something. Oh, no, just a pen.
Just a pen. Good evening, everyone. I'm Manuela King. I'm a principal with RHAA Landscape Architects in Mill Valley, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight to show you what we're doing at the Village at Corte Madera. This is a project because I live in Mill Valley. This is my shopping center. This is where I am almost every weekend, believe it or not, and I have a strong commitment to seeing it through to be its most beautiful place. We had a few project goals that we were assigned when we started this project: to replace the failing plants, to install low maintenance plant materials, to install low water use plant materials, to upgrade the overall appearance of the streetscape, and to install a fire resistant landscape. As you know, when the plants that have been in place in the perimeter and the parking lot were installed in 1985. In 1985, a lot of these values were not present. People didn't think about low water use planting. They just planted whatever they wanted to plant. People didn't think about fire. And so now we have a lot of plants that are on fire lists that you're not even allowed to plant, that are the plants that are in place right now in the parking lot. So we want to replace what's there with appropriate plant material. We did the renovation of the entire center in 2006. If you remember what it was like before this, there were concrete block wall planters and really terrible exposed aggregate paving, and it transformed the center into the luxury center that it is today. So we have strong ownership of what happens here. The existing perimeter planting, as I said, is 34 years old now, and it was failing from the outset for a number of reasons. The soil was never amended properly. The water table is high, and there's bay mud below it. In some cases, the plant materials have sunk, and the bay mud and water table is 6 inches below the crown of the existing tree. No tree is going to survive in that circumstance. Disease is on the rise in all the older plant material, and the plant selection was very poor for today's standards. It's patchy, it's fire prone. So you can see some of the existing eucalyptus trees. These are on the do not plant list here in Marin County right now. So we want to replace them with a better tree. Juniper below, also on the do not plant list. So we want to replace that with better plant material. This is another view of the eucalyptus tree. They're on life support. They have been pruned over the years to try to keep them looking as good as possible, but it's not great. The Bradford pears that are on the median aisle at the entry drives are also suffering from fire blight, and they have been one by one disappearing over the years as they completely die. So we want to just take them out now. If they have fire blight, get them out. They're never going to recover from that. More beautiful pictures of the eucalyptus. As you can see, they are not looking so great. And then these are 35-year-old pepper trees and matins in the parking lot. If I stood next to that tree, it's almost like just slightly above my head. It's 35 years. So you can see these trees need to go. We need better trees. This is not a healthy plant. There it is, next to the car. It's like a bonsai. So there are some more, with a lovely landscape below. So our goal is to redo all of this and make it beautiful and appropriate. There's another one with juniper below, double whammy. There, again. So these are some pictures of what we did on the interior, and I thought this was really interesting because this was in 2006 or 7 after we redid the interior. This is down by Macy's, where Talbot's was then. It's now Verizon. So you can see we planted Chinese pistache there up against the building. So there it is in 2006. And there are the red maples we planted in 2006. And there they are now. They're extremely successful. Same location, just the proper soil amendments and the proper plant selection. Again, this is the same tree, same location today. I photographed these this week. So you can see there, if you choose the right plants, you can get a beautiful landscape. This is the Chinese pistache at Talbot's in 2006, and here they are now. They've filled out really nicely. They look like beautiful real trees. So our approach was to highlight the entry drives for wayfinding and identity, to create a consistent perimeter planting that's native and low water use to tie into the natural marsh landscape across the street, to get more species diversity as you move towards the interior of the center so that you can tie to the kind of beautiful landscape on the interior. Our tree replacement approach was all the parking lot trees, the stunted bonsai trees, will be replaced. a formalized approach at the entries, so all those eucalyptus are coming out, and we're putting formalized rows of trees coming in, new trees at the perimeter, and new trees at the parking islands. And this is the palette that is in your packet that you've probably already seen. So that's the presentation. Here are some views. You have the 5-year, 10-year, whatever. So this is just the end result view of the entry aisle and the parking ends and the parking ends again. So that's my presentation.
Well, before you run off, commissioners, Phyllis, do you have any questions?
Yes, I noticed when you showed what was Talbert's, now Verizon.
Yes.
You showed a lot of, I guess they'd be annual plants or, anyway, some colorful flowers and stuff. And like there, will you have something like that in the center, just some plants adding some color while?
In the perimeter planting and in the entry aisles, there are some perennials. This, when we originally designed this was a hummingbird garden. So these plants were specifically selected to attract hummingbirds. Over the years, it's changed. So, but yes, we do have some plants in our palette that do have flowers and seasonal color.
Okay, fine. Thank you. That's it.
Dr. Bundy?
Yeah. Could you, I had talked to Stan the other day just to try to get an understanding of the excavations that are currently underway at the 2 east entrances. Could you pull those up and just make sure I understand what exactly is happening with those?
Oh,
Wait, here.
right there.
Yes.
So I can speak to that. So this is part of what was approved for the site work for the restoration hardware. So it's part of closing off the drive aisles. Also, as part of that, we're adding some new islands. So we're adding some new parking spaces. So again, closing off some drive aisles and adding a few more islands. So this is what you're looking at here. This is just what's in progress to close that entrance up.
And so the bioretention part of it, I know the drain is right there at all of those spots that are being excavated right now. So the drain is going to go into this as a bioretention rain garden?
I can't speak to what's on the plans right now, but we can get back to you on that.
Okay.
So it was previous work, but approved work.
Okay.
Not a part of this application.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the other issue in regard to drainage, I know in the north parking lot, you really did a nice job with rain gardens, bioswales, and retention there. I've seen the work at Bon Air where they extensively redid their parking area to create rain gardens to absorb more of the runoff so it wouldn't go directly into the drains. Is there any thought to doing that with the work that's being done on the parking lot and the plantings to prevent the rainwater from going directly into Shorebird Marsh, but to go through some type of bioswale or rain garden?
Louis, do you have throwing another person in the ring?
Well, I'm Louis Grace from Macerich. I lead the design and construction for this project, and we are adding bioretention and stormwater work next to the restoration hardware as part of that scope. Since we're not changing any of the parking lot and we're not changing any of the curb, it's not tied to this landscape work. A similar point to that, though, we are adding it as part of the requirements to the center court work. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't see any of this in that landscape that Manuel was talking about, but we would have that show up within center court because that is a full redo.
Okay. I guess one of the concerns is, I know the town of Corte Madera is concerned about how the drainage goes on Redwood, and the McStop or stormwater phase 2 requirements to screen, cut down on debris and sediment that goes into the shorebird marsh and ultimately into the bay. And I'm not sure exactly where those requirements are, but my understanding was that roads and areas that are close to the bay, that drain to the bay, may be required to do something to prevent that, the trash, the debris, the sediment from getting in. And some of those can be very involved. And if that was something that was going to be required of Mace Rich as well as the town of Corte Madera, this might be the time to consider that.
That is, you're correct. And in the areas, the gravel lot, the center court, restoration hardware, the areas that we were required to do that, we did that. But since we're not changing, right, we're just updating the planning, we're not required here. But if those comments come back during the sitter review, then of course we'll respond to that.
All right, Phyllis.
My question was asked through Bob's.
Okay.
I have a number of questions. I'm not sure who they go to.
Okay, well, throw them out there and let them
Okay.
decide who fields them.
Okay. The first one is about the fire pit and what safety issues. I see a lot of safety issues around having a fire pit with children and families unsupervised.
I'm the parking lot person, so we'll have the fire pit person come up.
Okay.
We're planning to have an emergency shut-off that can be hit if a child finds his way in there. There's also we're proposing a glass, I believe it's 12 to 18 inch tall, that surrounds the actual flames. Those are the current precautions.
Well, as an attorney, I see a real problem. I
Margaret,
think
yeah, can you
it's
speak into the
it's
microphone, Margaret? Yeah, just make sure you get it.
I don't
So,
know if it's, I see a problem there with a real, a danger and a liability. And
It's also the
I've seen how the kids run around and climb on things and walk around the raised parts of it. And I don't know how it's done in other shopping centers. I really can't recall seeing an open fire pit, although I think they have one at the town center. I don't know what their experience is, but I had a concern about that.
okay.
That's all. And then there was one thing in the picture here that I didn't quite understand. It's in this, the topographic survey, and then the next page, there's something called a slot drain that runs across the entire middle of it. What is that?
That's currently how the center court is drained. It pitches to that existing slot drain.
Like a trench.
So is it going to remain? Because in the next page it says remove.
So in the center court, it will be removed. As Lewis mentioned, we do need, because we're affecting the hardscape in the center court, we are required to do stormwater treatment. But since we are implementing a considerable amount of landscape, many of the areas aren't actually bio-retention. Only, I think, 3 of the planters on the north side. So we're now sloping every new hardscape to a planting area. We're not having any new actual drain structures.
So that'll be taken out and there's no main, so all these slot drains are removed, is that right?
In the center court, we're partially demoing the one on the north that reaches a little bit into the limit of work, and same goes for the one coming from the south. So we're just shortening them a little bit, and then all new hardscape areas that are affected are sloped to landscape.
And so you're counting on the landscape areas to completely drain whatever might accumulate on the hardscape? Is that?
Absolutely, yeah. We've had our civil engineer run all of those calculations, and I'm not sure if they're included in the packet, but we can provide those. I think in the center court there's 8 drainage areas, and they all have associated hardscape to landscape, all meeting or exceeding the required amount of impervious.
Okay.
So suffice to say then that the drains that are in the planters, and there are some in the planters, or you're relying on percolation?
There are some
Right.
overflow, yeah.
Okay. So there is drainage, positive drainage out of those planters.
The 3 on the north are true bio.
Bioswales? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anything else, Margaret?
I just want to go over a number. It's my understanding from what you said that you think that within 5 years the trees will reach shade value.
In the center court or the east parking?
Well, all these, the way, yeah, say the specimen trees.
So there's 3 trees in the center court that we've hand selected, and they range anywhere from I think 29 feet tall to 35 feet tall. So those are significant trees that are getting brought in at between 108-inch box and 132-inch box. These are gigantic trees.
So they're already at shade value.
Absolutely.
Okay. I noticed that one of the trees, or 2 trees, are the paper bark maples.
Yes, one of the
The
trees.
specimen trees, or, no, it's 1, 2. Okay, I just gonna make a comment. I'm curious to see how those grow, because I have 3 that have been nursed and have never reached shade value.
So the 3 trees on the north side of the plaza are definitely not planted as shade value trees, obviously because they have buildings to the north of them. So the 3 shade value trees will be on the southwest, southeast side of and those are the 3 108-inch box to 132-inch box. So the paper bark maple, it's meant more of a little bit more of an ornamental tree, great bark. It's in the edge of the stormwater planting. I think it's just more for interest rather than shade at all.
Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
No, okay. Mr. Lee?
So I have a question for you with the Central Plaza. It talked about the phasing of the trees out in the parking lot, and so I'm just curious, with it being a lot, are you taking the whole site? Are you planning on taking the whole site at once and doing all the grading and all the repaving, or is it a phased kind of approach to construction? Just out of curiosity, not that it would.
Lewis can probably talk to that, but the east plaza work will be done first, which is not shown here, but previously staff approved, and then the center court work will all be done in one. There'll obviously need to be because it's an operating center, there'll need to be staging and circulation and all of that that the general contractor will work through, but I'm pretty sure it's one phase.
The intent is to have all the work done with Restoration Hardware. So when they open, we have this all done. But of course, our priority is east because it's directly tied to that permit. So, construction
Right.
does what it is. But our intent is to have from Restoration Hardware all the way through to the center court completed at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
That would not necessarily be with the landscaping, right, the parking lot. We're just talking.
Yeah,
my
the
comment
parking
has
lot,
to do with
it
just
said
the
you would only
course.
do 40 trees at a time, and it's kind of as you go, you take some down, put some up, so that it's not, people don't go, oh my God, they clear cut the whole parking lot, so.
Well, it's going to happen. So one of my comments is you guys have got to do signage out there that explains to everybody what the heck is going on. Good signage at all entrances, and tell everybody what the timeline is and show pictures on placards of what it's going to look like. you know, the town doesn't need to blow back on this. So I hope you guys can stem that tide. I know there's a couple people here for public comment, but I will ask a couple of questions here. Who's going to oversee this planting work, and specifically? Is there an architect or a landscape designer that's going to watch it? Who's going to do that?
Correct. So both firms are on all the way through to CA.
Yeah.
And Macerich, of course, we're always monitoring all our jobs. So that would be Chad with land design and Manuela and her team from RHAA.
So the west side planting that was Pedersen designed out there has finally come into its own, I think. I've monitored it, and it's not had a lot of maintenance out there. It's kind of, and now it's kind of growing willy-nilly, which is fine because it's had a wet year. But some of those trees need some maintenance and some oversight. Somebody has to take that on, and particularly with this project. So trimming and pruning and cleanup of the debris and the planters out, those bioswales out there. If you walk them, there's stuff in them, right? So, but the landscaping has grown up to look and block the car view. This new design doesn't block cars, and it doesn't look like it was intended to do that. It's meant to change the look of the center. So I see that, and I wonder, you don't want to block cars, really. You just want to have the plantings look nice out there, right? So that's sort of too bad, but, you know, so we're going to see cars for 5 to 10 years, for the most part, in perpetuity. So signage out there, maintenance has just got to be done. It needs to be done out there. I don't hear anybody saying, oh yeah, we got a great maintenance program or something has to be done out there. You know, I forget how many years ago we approved the little restaurant stands in the center court, and that never occurred. So this is the new plan. And hopefully this one will get done, right?
Correct.
So I don't know if there's a history there or something, you know, but we're going to approve this, and we want you to, if we do approve it, we're going to want this to happen. It sounds like it's all going to happen this summer. You guys have got to tell the public about it and do this cleanly. But we don't want to hear any complaints a year from now going, what the heck happened to the planting at the village, right? It's gone to pot. Nobody's out there maintaining it. Is there a maintenance program out there? Somebody raise your hand and say yes or no. Is there?
Well, I'll let Stan talk to that. We do have a full operations team at Aller Center. I mean, we run multiple centers throughout the country, and it's important how they look.
Yeah.
Because when you run the level center that we operate, we do. So if there's concerns, we'll definitely bring this back to them. You know, it's a concern that the city's brought up on the condition of it, and we'll review that. And if it needs to be enhanced, then we'll do that.
Okay, previously we had conditioned some of the approvals for planting over there with oversight by the landscape architect every 6 months and so forth. I think you guys have got enough stake in the game to make sure it happens and sticks with it. I don't have anything else to add. Phyllis?
Well, we also don't want it redone 3 times, like
Yeah.
at Nordstrom's. I want to make a comment about the fire pit that Margaret brought up, because I've seen them in public areas, shopping centers and plazas, et cetera. And what they basically do when they are safe is the shape of it is kind of like a low soup bowl. There's no climbability. Very wide rims, like 16 to 18 inches, and then there's like 18 inches of glass above that rim on the outside. There is no way for a child to get to the flame. And I think if it's done that way, it's safe, because it's something that's attractive that people like to sit around and look at, and since there's the way to do it that's safe, why not?
I mean, can I say
Go ahead,
something?
Charles.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Peter a little bit about it. My experience is the St. Regis by the SF MoMA. They have an interior fireplace, and when you get near it and you try to put your hand in it, the flame extinguishes. So it's got like a motion sensor, and that's a really nice thing. I wish it would also happen over at the village as well, at the town center, because they haven't turned that one on. They put a screen in front of it, and I've never seen it on. I think it's a great amenity. I just want to see it be an amenity and not just a shell of an amenity. So.
I have seen it on. It does work.
But yeah, I mean,
having seen these planters at Concrete Works, and there's no quick ability to get to that flame. It's really hard for kids to get there. They're huge and hard to get there. So anyway, all right. Anything else for these folks?
Nope.
Okay. So we have some people here. Patty, I know, would like to comment. So let's open up the public comment section of this, please.
Patty Stollier, and I just had one tiny little thing that I wanted to make sure that the handprints and signatures that our little Neil Cummins kids did in 1985 get preserved as we're tearing up the area by the backside of Macy's. So I had written to Stan and written to some members of the commission, but I forgot to include Phil. So that's.
I forwarded to him.
Oh, thank you.
I agree too.
So that's my only thing. Also, I wondered if there was a picture of the fire pit so we could see how safe it looks. Is that in there at all?
Packet, I don't know if
It's
you've
a
got
drawing.
it.
it's
Thank you.
on the material board, I think, or.
Okay, anyone else have any comment, wants to stand up and say something? I don't see anybody else jumping up. So,
Here it is, Phil,
there's the, yeah.
upper right-hand corner.
That looks like what they call an attractive nuisance.
My only, also to follow up on what you were saying, is because there are other fountains there and they're very child friendly. All three of my kids go and play in those areas. They get trained to think that all these things are interactive and playing, and so even more so, you're going to have maybe that kind of interaction. That's the concern. So.
Don't you think a child would want to walk around the edge of that?
They're not going to get up there at night.
It's lower than the top of the benches that are there.
I understand, Margaret. I don't think that the kids will abuse it, but that's up to the parent.
Yeah, there should be the glass around it.
And this is, Concrete Works is the company that does all the apple planters, so their quality of work is very high. And this is one of their stock products. It's basically off the shelf. Everything else that we're having them work for us is custom. This one is a product that you can just purchase. So we can discuss with them other options on how they've handled it, what problems they've had, right? Because if it's a company that large, they're getting a lot of feedback, especially when it has to do with fire or water, right? Any of those things that can hurt somebody. So we'll definitely have that conversation with them, and we'll do everything we can to make it as safe as possible.
Right. Thank you. We don't normally do this like that, but thank you for responding.
Appreciate it.
All right. So that said, I don't think we have any other public comment. So we'll close that section of the meeting, and then we'll bring it up here for final comment before we take a vote on this item. So, Phyllis, do you have anything you would like to say about it, or add to it, or detract from it, or otherwise?
No, I hope my assumption's right, that this landscaping in the central area fits in with the landscaping that's going to be around RH. Since it leads to it.
Yeah, really. Okay,
That's it.
Dr. Bug.
No, I support the project. I guess I would just ask to think about the stormwater runoff regulations that you might be subject to in the near future, and if that could be incorporated into this project, you should consider it.
Charles.
I'm happy with the project. I can make the findings, and thank you for bringing another beautiful project in front of us.
All right then. Ms. Bandel.
I think it's a lovely, attractive project. I have reservations about that, the fire bowl. And I also think that before or as it's being done, the point that you brought up about a maintenance plan ought to be well established before the project gets done. They ought to be, you know, planned.
Right. So, you know, it's the Mesa Ridge responsibility to keep the project healthy and looking good. I would not want to condition this for maintenance. But what has happened in the past is that if we approve something like this and it looks terrible in a year or two, they come back and say, why did the commission approve this?
Right.
So Mesa Ridge's success at the village depends on this thing being maintained. I think that it's going to look like World War I there for a while you tear this stuff out, right? It's going to be pretty nasty. So people are going to say, what's going on? There's still people who are saying to us, how did restoration hardware get approved at this point? And it took a lot of work on your part and years. I don't understand how anybody didn't know what was going on. So that said, please make every effort to put this in front of people who are over there, and even, you know, I don't know, put an ad in the paper, something, put it online. Do that. And with that said, I would ask for a motion.
In the matter of the public hearing for design review and precise plan amendment for renovations of the center court and the east and south parking lots of the village of Corte Madera, PL-2019-0053-DRC, 0054PP. This is resolution number 19-018. I move to approve.
Second.
All right, Phil, you want to call the roll on this?
Commissioner Metcalf,
Aye.
Commissioner Bundy,
Aye.
Commissioner Chase,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
and Commissioner Bendel.
Aye.
All right, thank you,
Motion
guys.
passes. And this application can be appealed, as all applications before the Planning Commission can. There's a $300 filing fee, and an application can be obtained at the town's planning department.
All right, then. Congratulations. We'll take just 5 minutes here while you gather your rocks and go home. For those of you watching at home, so
What's our Nielsen rating?
everybody's sitting in front of their air conditioner.
They should
So-
come here, it's air conditioned.
We're comfortable here. With that said, Commissioner reports. So, Phyllis.
Okay.
you go ahead
Yes. The council meeting on June the 4th, it was the Peter Brown show, and he did a marvelous job. He's really outstanding. Basically, it had to do with budgets. And under the business items, there was the review of the operating budget for the next
Yeah.
2 years. And then 6B, that I'll talk about a little bit, was not only the proposed capital improvement program, but Peter put together a 5-year list of capital improvements, a copy of which I have here, which is outstanding. I mean, I don't think there's anything he missed, and if you should go online and take a look at it. It's worth seeing the detail and the work that went into it. And the third thing under business is something that does affect us eventually, was to review and provide to staff regarding Town Hall Complex Edition a project update and the selection of what was said originally a preferred alternative. There were 3 alternatives, or 3 options. A 3-story building adjacent to Town Hall, and I'll give a little bit detail afterward, just get a 2-story building, can't read my writing, utilizing the existing space, and then a smaller 2-story building. And let's see. The council chose two options to pursue, the first and second. The three-story building, which would be approximately 9,000 to 9,500 square feet, it would cost roughly $5 million to $6 million, according to the architects. It would include office space for town staff and a new council chambers. The design includes an interior remodel of the existing town hall to incorporate additional conference rooms and storage space. The other design was the larger of the two-story option, and that would be approximately 6,000 to 6,500 square feet with an estimated $4 to $4.5 million price tag. It would include fewer office spaces and a potential remodel of the council chambers. And Peter has been on that committee of people looking at it, and you may have some things to add, some details to add from the meetings you did attend.
I think that where the council took it is the point of that meeting, and that everything we led up to that point is sort of water over the dam, so that what they presented to the council as options is, and the council chose, is really the news and the necessary.
Yeah, okay, because there had been discussion of using different locales and stuff, and this is what this working committee came down to. I think it's very positive and will work well. More information will be brought back to the council for the future. As far as the manager and council reports, Todd reported that the Parks and Rec Department held a senior fair that was well attended and successful. Kuhnhart mentioned that TAM, the Transportation Authority of Marin, put out its budget and they're asking for public comment, so anybody who has concerns about that should take a look at it at their website and make comments. Jim Andrews mentioned there's several housing bills that are being monitored and bills addressing accessory dwelling units. We've discussed some of that at our meeting, and of course Phil and Adam are going to be keeping an eye on that. And Bob reported, some people really get their work done fast, that the Central Marin Police Authority and the Central Marin Fire Authority have done their fiscal budgets and have been approved. So they work fast. And that's an overview of it. I thought it was a very interesting meeting. I monitored from home, which Adam had told me was okay, and I really find I get more out of the meeting than actually sitting there with people talking around me and things distracting me. But as I say, Peter Brown really did a wonderful presentation, both for the office building and for Capitol. We're lucky to have him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's very good. I attended a meeting May 21st at which there was a presentation by Mill Valley Refuse Service about doing a dual stream. You may have seen the report in the paper, but it's coming to a neighborhood near everyone, and the containers will be provided at some point. More information to be forthcoming, but the whole point was to reduce the amount of material that ends up in the landfill as reject from the single stream waste system that they have now. So we'll have to separate bottles and newspaper. So bottles and plastics will go into one bin, and newspapers and cardboard will go in another bin.
Plastics will go with the glass.
Yeah. So, there was a lot of interesting information, but essentially he's been able to procure better contracts for recycling with this system. So hopefully everyone will get on board with it. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks for most people to get comfortable with it, and once they do, they get over 90% compliance usually, once they understand it.
You do realize they now expect us to separate the garbage between food sources going into the stuff with the lawn stuff. I mean, we're separating that from other type of garbage that isn't, and now we're going to have the other recyclables. I mean, why don't we just have 5 or 6 different cans, and we can march on thing, because there is equipment that's sold. It's very expensive, and I guess they don't want to buy it, that actually does the separating. This way they're going to charge us more to have more garbage cans.
Oh, I know,
And
yeah,
we're going to do their work for them.
that might seem to be the way in the service, but they have to hand select the stuff. And the problem is that when the material is reviewed by the people that have to accept it and pay for it, they can reject it. And that's what's been happening with the material going to China or going to recycling plants, and then it goes out without, it has to go to the landfill because it's polluted with the wrong material. So
China doesn't like us anyway right now. I don't think this will make a difference.
anyway, it was pointed out that in many communities, mountain communities and so forth, that you have to take your recycling to a recycling center, and you must separate
That's
every
right.
color bottle from
God.
everything, and cardboard, and that stuff is accepted without question because it's so clean. If only the citizens, in my view, if only citizens could support that much separation, then we would have no issues with that material, and our landfill costs would go down. But,
So you talk about a deduct then?
What'd you say?
no. So anyway.
I'm running out of space in the garage for garbage
Yeah.
cans.
In any case, at that time, there was the preview of the budget that you heard about at the meeting you attended, and in any case, I think that there was item 4B at that meeting was about the cannabis regulation, and Mr. Kuhnhart changed his vote from to a no vote from a yes vote for that.
Why, may I ask?
He felt that restricting the rights of people to obtain it was not fair, and that there wasn't, he didn't feel the inherent danger to the community or to kids was that wasn't that risk. So.
And he was talking both recreational and medicinal.
Right.
Okay.
So, anyway, my evidence notwithstanding that I've sent them, in any case, that's what he voted, but it was passed. So, it's a moot point at this time. So anyway.
So what does that mean, that it was passed, that it's going to be distributed everywhere?
No, it's
Oh.
quite the opposite. It means that Corte Madera has made it an ordinance
Okay,
that there
good.
will not be medical or recreational dispensary.
Dispensary.
The only allowed
Okay,
is only allowed
Delivery.
is delivery into the town.
okay,
And no business establishments can be located in the town
Okay.
relative to any type of cannabis.
There'll be indoor and
And
outdoor grow.
it'll be looked at again, what, in 3 years?
Yeah, there'll be there's no planned,
A review?
Yes, the suggestion from the commission was passed forward to the council to have it reviewed in 3 years. And I don't honestly know if they, I'll have to double check my notes, if they took that recommendation or
right,
not.
I don't either.
I'll have
I
to
mean,
check.
but that was what was presented to them, what
Correct.
we did, okay.
Yep.
Because
So-
there was a kind of a snarky editorial in the IJ that we as a town should have had something where we could revisit it.
Yeah.
And I sent an email to Brad and I said, did you read the resolution passed by the Planning Commission? It says to take a look in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I think we can conclude our commissioner reports. It would go to the planning director, but I'm going to ask this new audience member if she intended to see anything take place, because we are really through all the agenda items and we're now into just reports and other matters. So anyway, the bulk of the meeting is passed. In any case,
Insurance school law.
Phil, do you have anything to report on the part of the planning department?
Thank you, Chairman Chase. Nothing specific regarding planning director's report. I guess just it's maybe a little bit late, but if anybody wants to have any particular vacation schedules they want to notify us of, and particular meetings in July or August that you won't be able to attend, you can send those to me via email or whatever's most convenient. Currently, we do not have anything on the agenda for the next meeting, which is June 25th. That may change, but I think at this point it's open. And that's
Okay, for the
That's
record,
all I
I'll
have to
be out the
report.
last week of August, but that's just for the moment.
you're gone. I'm sorry, the last week of August.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so with that said, we see that there really is no tentative agenda, and we have to get rid of these meeting notes. So we
I'll
have-
move the Planning Commission meeting minutes from February 26th.
Move to approve.
And there were three of us present.
Yeah, so that is three of us right here. So you can second it, Bob, and we can all say yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Yay.
Okay, so that's that one. The next one, you were absent, so March 26th, if anybody has any commentary, or move to approve.
I move to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from March 26, 2019.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all approve?
Aye.
Aye.
I would approve, but not the part that I was recused from.
Got it. You were recused from that one issue. Planning Commission meeting minutes for April 23rd. Mr. Lee, you were not here. Anybody to move to approve, comment, or move to approve?
Move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
all right. Voice vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and May 14th, Bob, you were not present, so commentary on those, or move to approve.
Move to approve.
I move to approve the Planning Commission meeting of May 14th, 2019 meeting minutes.
Okay,
Second.
voice vote.
Aye.
There we go. With that said, we're going to adjourn the meeting.